Hello and welcome to the Newsmax Daily for Monday, October 7th, 2024. Hope you had a fantastic and safe weekend. It was a good one for sports fans, unless you're an Alabama fan. Some big college football upsets Saturday, including Bama losing to Vanderbilt. Sunday NFL that didn't end until around 1 o'clock this morning, with Dallas beating Pittsburgh after a long lightning delay there. Major League Baseball playoffs and NASCAR at Talladega, which included a huge crash involving more than 20 cars. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was the eventual winner of that race. NASCAR also has a revenue-sharing controversy that's brewing involving Michael Jordan. Yes, the Michael Jordan has a NASCAR team, along with NASCAR driver Denny Hamlin. It was also a busy weekend of politics, highlighted by former President Donald Trump's return to Butler, Pennsylvania, which I'll get into in a moment. Speaking of NASCAR, Vice President Harris was in North Carolina on Saturday, as another massive hurricane is now headed directly for Florida's west coast, which is still flooded and still recovering from Hurricane Helene 10 days ago.
As of the 5 o'clock advisory, Hurricane Milton was located 805 miles west-southwest of Tampa. Maximum sustained winds have now reached 85 miles per hour. This is something that potentially would be greater power outages than what we just saw with Hurricane Helene.
That, of course, is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in a news conference last night. He will have several news conferences again today. I would imagine, if you don't know, I live in Florida, so I'm preparing for a long, busy week. Last week, the governor sent a lot of resources from Florida up to North Carolina to help in rescue and recovery efforts there. So I imagine that those crews are now headed back south for this pending hurricane. Vice President Harris, as I mentioned, visited North Carolina on Saturday.
The work that's happening here that is so positively impacting so many people is really an example of the best we can do when we bring resources together at the federal, state, and local level.
Harris held a news conference at the Charlotte Douglas International Airport in Mecklenburg County in Charlotte, the bluest part of the entire state, about 2 hours away from Asheville, where all the devastation is, while former President Donald Trump returned to Butler, Pennsylvania, where he was nearly assassinated less than 3 months ago. I'm going to cover a lot of the rally, including Elon Musk and a lot of other things, so stay with me. But this is what it sounded like when Donald Trump took the stage there in Butler, Pennsylvania, after a live performance of God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood.
Lee, thank you very much, really, and thank you, a very big thank you to Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania, and as I was saying, oh, I love that. I love that chart. I love that graph. Isn't it a beautiful thing? But also beautiful because look at the number. That's the day I left office. It was the lowest Border Patrol, the lowest it's ever been. Illegal immigration. Today it's out of control. But I love it for other reasons, too. You know that. So thank you very much. And thank Lee and what Lee has done with that song. And it's such an honor to have it. I want to just let you know that tonight I returned to Butler in the aftermath of tragedy and heartache to deliver a simple message to the people of Pennsylvania and to the people of America. Our movement to make America great again stands stronger, prouder, More united, more determined, and nearer to victory than ever before. We're going to make America great again. Going to win the election. Going to win the election. And to all Americans, whether you are Republican, Democrat, Independent, Conservative, or Liberal, or you have no label whatsoever, it makes no difference. Our movement, it belongs to you. It belongs to our country. It belongs to our country. And together, in just 1 month, we are going to usher in a new golden age of American security, prosperity, sovereignty, and freedom for our citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. Exactly 12 weeks ago this evening on this very ground, a cold-blooded assassin aimed to silence me and to silence the greatest movement, MAGA, in the history of our country. MAGA. We love MAGA. For 16 harrowing seconds during the gunfire, time stopped as this vicious monster unleashed pure evil from his sniper's perch, not so far away. But by the hand of providence and the grace of God, that villain did not succeed in his goal, did not come close. He did not stop our movement. He did not break out our spirit. He did not shake our unyielding resolve to save America from evils of poverty, hatred, and destruction. Yet we are here this evening in record numbers. This is a big crowd. This is a big one. This is a big one. Not only to mark the triumph of American spirit, but over, and you know that this is really, truly, in the truest sense, spirit over evil and adversity, but also to pay tribute to some of the best and bravest we have ever known.
So those were the opening minutes of the Trump rally with the immigration graph that he was talking about back at the July rally when he was nearly killed. The graph he credits with saving his life.
When the crisis struck, they did really Pennsylvania proud. You've heard that expression, Pennsylvania proud. It's a great place. I went to school. I went to college in Pennsylvania. It's a great place. The people are incredible. Also, and I have to say, after returning to the field tonight, is one of the really brave Americans who was hit by the assassin's bullet, U.S. Marine veteran David Dutch. David, thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, David. And David, we're thrilled to see your recovery is going well. Great doctors up here, I have to tell you, great doctors. Your courage is really an inspiration to us all, so I want to thank you very much, David. A great gentleman, great gentleman. I want to send our love to someone who could not be here because he has just undergone a major surgery related to the shooting. A man who is really badly wounded, like David, James Copenhagen, because James was a wonderful man, a big Trump fan. And Mr. Copenhagen is out there watching us right now, but he's in a hospital where they did some additional work, but he's in great shape. He wanted to be here so badly, but he's in great shape, and we appreciate it, and we're looking to his full and complete recovery. He will have a complete recovery. Thank you. Thank you very much. And of course, there's one more hero who could not make it back here tonight because he is no longer with us, right? You know who that is, right? Corey, our beautiful Corey. Corey is not with us tonight, and he should be. And we all miss him. He's become somewhat of a folk hero, I have to tell you. Who is with us is his beautiful wife and daughters and relatives, sister.
Hopefully you watched the rally live on Newsmax, but if not, Elon Musk was the other big headliner.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight. Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire. So who do you want representing America? Yeah, absolutely. And I think this election, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime. This is no ordinary election. The other side wants to take away your freedom of speech. They want to take away your right to bear arms. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. You got 14 states now that don't require voter ID. California, where I used to live, is just passed a law banning voter ID for voting. I still can't believe that's real. So how are you supposed to have a proper election if there's no ID? It's just meaningless. And free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And if people don't know what's going on, if they don't know the truth, how can you make an informed vote? You must have free speech in order to have democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment. President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America.
Elon Musk, who, let me remind you, came to the United States from South Africa, making some very valid common sense points there, right? And lastly, Donald Trump spoke about the hurricane victims, and the federal response.
In addition, this evening we have to send our prayers and support to all the families affected by Hurricane Helene. This has been the worst hurricane response by a president and vice president since Katrina, and this is simply not acceptable. Those people, I was there yesterday with North Carolina and Georgia, and I'll tell you, and by the way, the governor of Georgia is doing an excellent job, but we have other people that aren't doing a good job, and we have to have them do a good job. But the federal government is doing a very bad job. They are not doing the job, and we have death and destruction that we haven't seen maybe ever. It's a real bad one, and they have to get people there because they don't have people there. They don't have the people. Kamala wined and dined in San Francisco, and all of the people in North Carolina, no helicopters, no rescue. It's just what's happened there is very bad. They're offering them $750 to people whose homes have been washed away. And yet we send tens of billions of dollars to foreign countries that most people have never heard of. They're offering them $750. They've been destroyed. These people have been destroyed. The one young lady washed, you saw that with her son. I mean, pretty, I wish I never saw it, but just washed away. Your son was washed away with the grandparents, and so sad. And they're giving them $750. And think of it, we give foreign countries hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're handing North Carolina $750. If you want a president who won't even try to save you when the floodwaters are rising, vote for Kamala. She's not the right person. Look, you know what? If they did a good job, I wouldn't have run. To be honest with you, I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to. If I thought they were doing an even modestly good job, I wouldn't have run, but I saw right from the beginning, grossly incompetent, and I was right about that, and I decided to run.
Donald Trump back at the site of his attempted assassination in Butler, Pennsylvania, Saturday. He will have a rally in President Biden's hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania on Wednesday. Meanwhile, former FEMA Director Michael Brown spoke with our Chris Salcedo.
Let's bring in former FEMA Director Michael Brown. Sir, it is great to see you. We're getting disturbing new reports about what's going on with FEMA aid. According to a new whistleblower report sent to Congressman Matt Gaetz, FEMA allegedly misappropriated funds in the wake of Helene, withheld pre-disaster aid, all while first responders and service members were left waiting in hotels without deployment orders. And of course, this comes just days after DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said FEMA does not have enough funds to make it through the rest of hurricane season. And DHS records on their own website show they spent all that money on illegal aliens. Sir, your reaction to the current state of affairs?
Well, let's first point out that FEMA is never going to run out of money because FEMA has 536 advocates. Well, I say 536 because I was going to include the president until I heard your report. Maybe I shouldn't include the president. FEMA has 535 advocates that will make sure that the disaster relief fund has enough money in it. They always do. They always have. And that's the 435 members of the House and the 100 members of the Senate. They will eventually appropriate money. But let's not let that take away from the fact that FEMA has the disaster relief fund tends to be used as a slush fund to do stupid things like provide money through that for illegal alien housing. And the problem is whether that money is going to be replenished or not, the optics are horrible. That's mission creep beyond anything I could have ever imagined in the almost, 20 years now since I left FEMA. There were times once FEMA got moved into the Department of Homeland Security that I was constantly bombarded. Well, can't we use the disaster relief fund for this or for that? And I always had to push back and say, no, that's really the savings account that we have so that we can pay not just for ongoing disasters, because there's always an ongoing disaster, but for any new disaster that might occur. And so I think, where's the FEMA director been? Where's Alejandro Mayorkas, the Secretary of Homeland Security, been? They're nowhere to be seen. And so when they're not out communicating about what they're doing, and on top of that, the president is saying, we have nothing else to give, then whatever's the truth or not true about temporary flight restrictions or not enough money or we're doing this or doing that, people are left to their own imagination. And my imagination is you must not be doing anything because you're not out there bragging about what you are doing.
That's former FEMA Director Michael Brown on the Chris Salcedo Show. Newsmax host Lydia Serrani spoke with North Carolina Senator Ted Budd, who said things are finally getting better.
Senator, thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Talk to me about the devastation. How are you all doing? I was a reporter down in the South Carolina, North Carolina area for several years, Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news, and we covered Asheville extensively. And to see the devastation there of that beautiful town, it's heartbreaking to see. Talk to me about the resiliency of the residents and what's happening at this moment.
Well, thanks for your time you're spending in our great state. Look, it is tough. These are tough mountain people, and it is tough circumstances right now. We're grateful for all of the response. My main gratitude wants to go out for all the individuals who have stepped up, the private citizens, these groups like Samaritan's Purse, Baptist on Mission, who were there day one. So many people have been so generous. American Red Cross, who, by the way, have a 1 through 7 rating, 7 being the worst. They got here, they thought it was maybe a 4 or 5. When they got into the situation, they said, no, this is a 7. So this is the worst I think they've ever seen. But these are tough mountain people. A lot of them don't want to leave their homes. The temperatures are getting ready to drop, so there's a lot of concerns. The federal government's response, we're grateful, first of all, that they're there. But there was a lot of bureaucratic hand-wringing early on, and it was slow. But now they're on the ground. Things are improving.
North Carolina Republican Senator Ted Budd. It's good to hear the response is improving and people are getting more help. FEMA and other resources already stretched thin will now have to respond to what is likely going to be more catastrophic damage, life-threatening flooding in Florida this week as well. Lydia also spoke with Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy about the election, the recent court ruling that you may have heard about, and the Newsmax IPO.
Now, Pennsylvania, we have to talk about it. It's a major swing state. It's a battleground. What do you think? Do you see him winning here as well as other key swing states?
Well, it's concerning, right? Because, Dr. Oz should have won that state. I think the polls showed him it was against John Fetterman. And, suddenly Fetterman won, even though he seemed to have a lot of incapacity at the end of his race. You wonder if there's a lot of ability of the Democratic governor in that control the state to get out votes that are going to be more favorable. We're seeing registrations up in some of these states by the Democrats. So it's concerning, but the polls show the president is either tied or leading in Pennsylvania. But there's other states that are very crucial. Again, Wisconsin and Georgia. North Carolina is in play this time, Nevada. So all of those states. But generally, I think the president's ahead or tied. And he wasn't 4 or 5 years ago at the same time, 4 years ago. So I think he's a very good position. He just needs to. The Gallup poll that came out said there are 8 main issues in this election that voters are concerned about. And they asked Americans who was better on those 8 issues. 7 of the 8, Trump won. When you ask people in these polls who's better for the economy, Trump wins that handily over Harris. When they ask who's better for foreign policy, handily over Harris. So those are the 2 big functions of a president, right? Handling these issues that America's confronting, handling the economy, and he wins it. So I actually think that the narrative for him is very strong and positive. He just needs to focus on those issues as we come down to the final wire.
Earlier in the broadcast, we were talking to Rob Finnerty. He has his new show Tuesday, Finnerty, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here in Newsmax. You don't want to miss it. And we were talking about the importance of independent news outlets that are not beholden to any administration like Newsmax, which had some really big news. You recently settled a lawsuit with Smartmatic, a voting company, and you are still planning to do an IPO soon. Is that still on track? And talk to me about the importance to have a fair and balanced media outlet that tells all sides of the story the way Newsmax does.
Well, I like how you put that. That's great, Lydia. I think it's tremendous that we are trying to give both sides. And I think that's the old-fashioned media that people want. And that's why our ratings hit just like one of the pieces of development was the Nielsen ratings for Q3. We're going to have more of those numbers this week. We had 34 million people tune into Newsmax in Q3 of this year. That's up about almost 50% over the same time last year. Huge increase. 7 million people that watched us didn't even tune into Fox News. So they're coming to Newsmax because they like us and they think we're better. That's really big. We did settle that suit. There's not a lot I can comment on it, but other than say I think it was a very positive development for Newsmax. We're moving forward. So that's very exciting. The IPO was filed at the SEC. We have a great investment banker. He's been on, Mark Ellenowitz, on some of the shows. We've had tremendous response to people interested in the planned IPO. It's, again, before the SEC for approval. We're hoping the end of this year. And people can actually invest early in the pre-IPO. So we're very excited about the potential for what we're doing right now.
Again, that is Newsmax CEO Chris Ruddy with host Lydia Serrani. For more information on how you can invest in Newsmax, check out the website newsmaxinvest.com. That's newsmaxinvest.com. No buy, sell, or hold, but you know what they say. It's always best to get in on the bottom floor, right? The other big talking point from the weekend that you'll hear a lot about today is the preview of the vice president's 60-minute interview, where she was pressed about the United States, the Biden-Harris administration's relationship with Israel and Prime Minister Netanyahu.
With all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
Not sure when that is going to air in full, but that is another pre-recorded and edited interview, although she is on her own in this one. And the vice president will be doing more tough interviews like that this week with Stephen Colbert and The View. And this comes on the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th terrorist attack on Israel, the attack that killed more than 1,100 people, including women and children and some military. It's really hard to believe, but the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza, which has now spread to Lebanon, has been going on for a full year. There will definitely be a lot of talk about this on today's shows. On Wall Street, stock markets opened well into the red this morning. Oil sharply higher, once again up almost another buck at over $75 per barrel. Oh, and in Washington, the Supreme Court is back in session today with issues like gun control, the death penalty, and gender-affirming care for minors, all in the new term that begins today. You can keep up with all of the news all day by watching Newsmax TV, checking out Newsmax.com, and make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for the most complete lineup of all of your favorite shows and guests. That's NewsmaxPlus.com. Rob Schmidt tonight, The Record with Greta Van Susteren, Greg Kelly Reports, Carl Higbee, Chris Salcedo, Wake Up America, and more, with expert analysis from people like Mark Halperin, Governor Mike Huckabee, Judge Napolitano, Hogan Gidley, and many others. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. If you have not already subscribed, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. If you are in the state of Florida, please prepare for the hurricane. Be prepared, safety first, and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
It's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news.